the cyber urinal.
All right. Okay, everyone. So we're live. It looks like we have Miranda on the live chat. So welcome, Miranda. For this week, we had challenged, of course, Steve, our favorite troll, or one of our favorite trolls, to come on. And according to the polls, it doesn't seem like he would show up, but we will see. The discussion was going to be what I had told him, that we would discuss his question, what is a woman? Because previously he kept on bringing that up whenever he got killed in the discussions, because he didn't really have an argument on the subject at hand. So he would just revert to, well, what is a woman? Well, you don't have an objective morality, and you would go, well, what is a woman? As if that has anything to do with anything, including atheism. So I don't think he'll show up, but we can still talk about it. I think the topic is, a good topic to discuss, although of course it doesn't have anything to do with atheism directly, but it is relevant in the sense that these guys are using fallacious reasoning to support their views. But before we start, on the stage I have with me our regulars, Blarg and Nuke. Jiba said he couldn't make it, so he won't be on. I'm not sure about John Clark. I know I sent the link kind of late, and he has sent me an email asking whether we are actually going to have this. So he may not be ready to come on, or he may come on later. So that being said, what we were talking about before getting on is about the Cybertruck, the Tesla Cybertruck. So Blarg and Nuke, oh, by the way, and I'm in the Midwest of the US, and I've started seeing the Cybertruck now. Previously, I hadn't really seen one, but like within the last week or so, we've seen I've seen a Cybertruck on the road. So it was kind of cool. But Blarg, Ook, what were you guys saying about the Cybertruck?
I call it the cyber urinal because that's what it looks like, a stainless steel urinal to me. But yeah, it's got some really nice features. It's fast. I mean, you've got a 7,000 pound car that can go from 0 to 60 2.6 seconds in under 3 seconds. Now that is fast. The only problem is you then have to stop a 7,000 pound car, and it doesn't have the braking power to do that properly. And you've got this great off-road vehicle that can't really go off-road, and you can't even fit a mountain bike in the what we call the tray section, the ute, the back of a truck. To me, it's pointless. Yeah. Sorry, Blarg, you were saying about the speed. Yeah, you don't need.
Oh yeah, just kind of ridiculous, because that goes along and adds probably 30 grand to the price of the damn vehicle. By the time you, well, I suppose maybe not, because there's an ongoing issue that with battery powered vehicles has to do with the power density versus energy density. So if you want a certain amount of power, lithium batteries are constrained. Well, most batteries are constrained by the maximum power they can put out per unit of battery. So this was a problem with the original generation Priuses. They had a far larger battery than they actually needed, because they needed the 50 kilowatts for the motor, but they didn't need the amount of battery. So they needed the amount of battery for 50 kilowatts, but they didn't need the amount of battery for kilowatt hours, because they're only just doing some regenerative braking. So the end result, you put a whole lot of batteries in a vehicle that, in order to hit the power requirements that might not be necessarily needed for distance requirements. But I suppose for a full electric vehicle, the further you can drive with it, the more the proposition works as a
But,
sales pitch.
Yeah,
if you can do 700 miles on a single charge, you're just going.
they can only do 400 pushing it.
400 miles or kilometers?
I think it's more. Geez, that's a problem with all the gunk that's coming out with the cyber urinal. They swap. They go from American to metric all the time. I think they wanted a range of 500 mile, but it barely gets, and this is only on sealed roads, it barely gets 400, and then it needs a full charge, which is about a 15-hour go, and it's just everything in it just inside looks silly. The screen can't move. It's stuck there. So if you're off to the side and you can't tilt the screen to you, what's the point of having a truck that you can't throw a push bike in the back? The front wheel hangs out. It's not even long enough to put. It's ridiculous. Oh, and the rear wind, you may as well. The rear vision mirror, forget about it. And the rear vision reversing camera, or the camera that you can see, there's I think they said 30-yard blind spot, so it can't see anything closer than 30 yards away. So if you're trying to reverse down your driveway, better make sure your kids are out of the road. But it's
pretty well defeats the purpose of a reversing camera, really.
Yeah,
because you can work out what's 30 yards behind you. It's what's immediately behind you that's the problem.
And there's no way to fit another one down. Yeah, it's just wank. It really is.
We were praising a couple of the features on it, though. The adaptive steering, the steer by wire, that concept is great. I would worry about a Tesla implementation of it, because as we know, the great Lord Elon isn't big on testing things to high level. He pretty well everything is just beta, and be a little concerned about failure of the system while zipping along in the 7,000-pound urinal. But the idea is terrifically nice.
Oh, I mean, especially on a four-wheel drive, wired steering would be so handy, because that's one of the vagueness that you get on some dirt tracks, or if you're in deep bull dust, that deep red dust, it'll make life so much easier. But yeah, I really.
Well, for Americans, we only really care about one thing about the Tesla truck, which is how many cup holders does it have?
Yes, it has enough cup holders, and it looks like the future. It looks so amazing.
It doesn't. It looks like a cyber. It looks like a urinal you get at school.
Well, I don't know. It looks like a 70s idea of what the future should look like.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, I tell you what, that launch was just one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. With the glass is bulletproof. Let's demonstrate. Thwack, smashed it. You go, all right, we'll do it on the back window. Thwack, smashed it. You go, that's the Microsoft launch with the blue screen level of foot in mouth or failure.
Yeah. Oh, that was.
I mean, you have to
so
think
good.
that they must have tested it beforehand, you know?
How did they not do that? Like,
Okay, all right. So now
Seriously.
everybody says that, but with the way that Elon loves to be the great big brain boy in the room, they might not have tested it for that. He might have just thought, hey, they tell me that it's durable and good. I can just do this. Because he has a tendency to just do things.
Well, I think he just like looks at the specs and says, hey, you know, this would, you know, block a bowling ball or whatever. And he thinks that's sufficient.
Maybe they shot it with the 22.
from a long way away.
Yeah.
No.
Well, what I'm waiting for is the lawsuit. The lawsuit that comes when somebody decides to test that claim of bulletproofness with a real bullet.
Well,
and because you can guarantee it is not bulletproof.
If you shoot 3 9mm bullets at the same spot, it will fracture and go through. If you use the AR-15, which is 5.56, that will just go straight through. If you go to something like a little bit heavier, your AK-47 7.6 cartridge, that goes straight through it. And of course, if you go to 308, straight through the other side as well. And 50 cal will go through go through front to rear, straight through. Some people have actually bought them to basically just shoot the buggers. So
what the contrast to the debacle of the demo is what Steve Jobs did with his iPhone demo. He had an iPhone that wasn't ready; it didn't work.
Yeah.
But they got it all like pieced together so that he had backups for the backups. I think he had like multiple different phones, iPhones ready to go. And, they've set up this like exact path of what app to show at what time, etc., to ensure that everything goes correct. Because if he had deviated just slightly from it, it would have failed. But, he got it working, even though the product was not ready at the time.
Oh, yeah. No, he was absolutely, he was the modern P.T. Barnum in terms of showmanship, in terms of, putting on it, being able to market and being able to give them the old razzle dazzle.
He's like a modern day Edison, you might like, except he hasn't rolled out an elephant to electrocute yet.
You can, yeah.
I think they have
but other than that,
I think a 60 or 70% failure on each cell. Like out of one battery, they'll have 60% of the cells in that battery fail. I was reading a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, trying to make good batteries is hard enough, but to push them out at the rate that he needs to fill orders is, if you're getting a 60% fail on each, it's just not going to work. And my big problem with electric cars, and I want them, is when they catch fire. If there's a fire, you're fucked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put one on my house, that's for sure.
No, I mean, the toxicity of the smoke is just, and the intensity of the fire is scary.
Yeah. That failure rate is actually disguised by a more insidious problem because they can't actually test the battery properly. So they'll test correctly. All the figures will come back saying they're fine, and then like 2 weeks later it fails. So there's characteristics of the batteries that can't be tested using the test methods even available at the factory. So they can't tell if they've got a dodgy cell or not. And Yeah, you
That's
get this
horrifying.
input.
From a manufacturing standpoint. I mean, the
Oh yeah, it's
engineers
really bad.
must be beating their heads against the desk all the time. Anyway, we'll get off the cyber urinal, and
we'll go to the topic at hand. So,
and that concludes this episode of Tech Week.
Can you imagine if you got like a group of 6 blokes walking down the road? They've all been at the pub and they need a piss. Can you imagine someone having a cyber urinal there and going, I wonder what urine will do to this stainless steel? Sorry, that just popped into my head. Okay, we'll go back. What is a woman?
Well, so just
no matter what happens, though, no matter what happens, the result would be piss poor.
Actually, my the standard sentence for changing the topic is, "How about them honey badgers?" It's become a cliche. It's so like, because honey badgers are just freaking amazing, and you can pretty well end any sort of argument with "How about them honey badgers?" And then that's it. It's all done.
Okay.
Well, so that's like the argument that
I'm going to remember that one.
You know, where his argument is at the end, what is a woman, which is what we're going to talk about. So for those of you that joined us late, what I said at the beginning was that we were going to, or we thought we were going to have Steve join us. And the reason for that is, previously when he was defending slavery, of how great slavery is, at least the great slavery in the Bible, how it helps the slaves and, is preferable to being, poor or whatever, or being in death, that, he was trying to defend slavery. And then when he got to the point where, our arguments pretty much debunked everything he said, at that point, he kind of goes to his, fallback, which is, what is a woman? And he kept on asking me that, and I specifically didn't respond because I didn't want him to, essentially deflect from the discussion. And so what I had told him was that, well, if you come on at this, this week's show, we can actually talk about it, because, as I say to a lot of people, the YouTube comments are not a debate. There's really no way to have a good debate on the YouTube comments. And I wanted to have it as a discussion so that, we can hold him to account whenever he says something.
But how can that be? Because
completely. What was that? Go ahead, John.
I was saying, how can the comment sections not be a good place for debate? Neppy wins every debate every time in the comment section.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so here's an example of kind of this just outrageous things that Steve says that has nothing to do with atheism or has nothing to do with even the discussion at hand. So this is a response to Blarg above, where he said, the world is muddy, deal with it. This was this whole Neapolitan ice cream thing. And his response was, I have a better example. Kamala puts her heel up, uses no protection, and gets pregnant. Is she responsible, or does she have an out? Just ridiculous. Of course, I
didn't even follow that.
He was just using it as an example, just a stupid example. But he had to say Kamala, because there is on the right wing, there's this whole thing of, claiming that, Kamala essentially stepped her way up.
I gotta go on mute for a second. I gotta step away.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so he says really stupid things like that. And so when I invited him, I put up a poll. And there's only 18 responses here, but I basically asked whether, the respondents think that Steve would show up or not. And so, yes, he will show up because Steve always wants an honest discussion. And that's 17%. Or no, Steve remembers his humiliation from his last appearance. And before it was actually like 50-50, but it looks like most people have kind of caught on that maybe Steve is not, maybe he doesn't want an honest discussion. So large majority said 83%. I know at least one of them is Miranda feeling that he was completely honest, and she said yes, but then she said she was voting sarcastically. So unfortunately, that's kind of what is that, voter negation or something like that. When the idea that for criminal cases involving blacks, because of their sort of the systematic racism, that a black jury would vote that they are not guilty even when they're innocent. Does anyone remember what that term is?
Sorry, I had to talk back on. What was the question?
The idea that when there's a prominent case or any case involving a black defendant, that if it was a black jury, that in order to counter the systematic racism, that they would essentially judge to be not guilty, even though the evidence says that they are guilty.
Was it nullification?
Negation. Oh, nullification. Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was all just to get to the point where Miranda was essentially doing voter nullification, just to voice her discontent with Steve. But anyway, yeah. So I did want to actually talk about this whole idea of what is a woman, and it's all I think it's all come up in the comments in one way or the other, and it's obviously there's been people who have called in about it, trying to make this question of what is a woman and all that, and so that all that's been discussed. But and I think a lot of the other responses to those calls is that what this has got to do with atheism, and ultimately it isn't. It has nothing to do with atheism, because as we all know, atheism is just about the question of whether there is evidence for God, or in some cases whether you believe or not believe in God. So that's what atheism is. But we know that it always gets conflated with these kind of issues, as well as things like science. These theists think that atheism is science. But it does. The reason why I think it comes up in these kind of atheist shows is that, for the most part, and of course not 100%, for the most part, atheists tend to be more progressive, and as part of kind of supporting humanism, kind of in contrast to having supporting views based on the existence of God. Humanism generally supports the idea of supporting people who are marginalized, like gays and minorities and trans. So there is an association that you kind of have to admit. So there is a connection with atheism, but just because it correlates with the idea that atheists generally tend to be more humanist.
Yeah, I would say it also.
Yeah, it's a correlation, not causation.
Yep, it varies a bit from country to country, because in Australia you could say what's Smoochie's line, atheism. We're very laid back and apathetic, and when that carries over into religion, who gives a shit, sort of thing. We'll only worry about it if it starts to affect our way of life, which is laid back and casual. And that's really how I got into activism. Was I noticed, bloody hell, all these God botherers are starting to get political power, and now it's time to stop that. No one wants nutcases making rules for other people, everyone to live by. The politicians can do that quite well without bringing a god into it.
Yeah, and I think also in the U.S., because this type of belief, again, it's a correlation, but a correlation on the other side, where if you are a Christian nationalist, let's say an evangelical or kind of more on the extreme right, you're generally going to be anti-trans, and you're going to have, like believe in things like anti-choice, and I think to some extent racism. I think they all kind of fall to the conservative religious right. Again, a correlation, right? Not 100% of them necessarily are racist or sexist or misogynist or all those other stuff, but if you look at the percentage, it's going to more, go to that side for those type of thinking. And let me just mention, so Cinnamon 13 kind of anticipates the discussion that we're going to have about the idea of what is a woman, and says, show me a female who identifies as a man and wins in UFC against a man. So his argument is that, unless every female or that somehow this has to be some kind of criteria for, a female being able to be a man, right? If you can't possibly be a man if you can't win in a UFC against another man. I wonder how well he would do in a UFC fight against another man, but that's it's kind of an irrelevant question.
I guess I would like to know, what is it about that criteria that would be the home run? Like, how is it that would be the thing that goes, okay, yep, nope, you're absolutely right. This is a
so
man.
if we can find that person,
my bad.
Yeah, so if you can find that person, then would this guy, the Cinnamon guy, and anyone else, would they all of a sudden go, oh, yeah, then I'm wrong?
My bad. Yeah, okay. We cool. Yeah,
a lot of security work. I can tell you that I would rather throw out a 7-foot Samoan than a 5'2" pissed woman.
Yeah,
I'll end up with less damage done to me.
I guess
that's
so.
So Miranda,
here's kind of the whole.
Miranda,
yeah.
Wait. So just Miranda asked, in a UFC fighter between two cis men, the lower is no longer a man. No, actually, he's just a bottom. I think.
Yeah. Come on, dude.
Here's the thing: it doesn't matter how well we demonstrate. The science says it's not what they're claiming. It doesn't matter how much we say that sex is not the question; it's gender, and sex is what's in your pants, gender is what's in your head, and no trans person is making a claim about what's in their pants. They're only making a claim about what's in their head. They might want to change what's in their pants to make it fit better with what's in their head. It doesn't matter how much we explain all of that. They aren't listening. They aren't interested. It's essentially the 2000s version of the attacks on Jews and gays during the 1920s and 30s in Germany. Pick a scapegoat, attack them, and anyone who defends or stands up for them, villainize them, make them into non-humans, and then anyone who supports and tries to protect them can then be painted with the same brush, and you can deal with the whole lot of them. That's essentially the playbook that's happening here. It's a standard fascist playbook.
Not just fascism, but I mean, take a look.
There was
take a look at the civil rights movement in the United States. All throughout history, there's always been a marginalized group that's been othered. Say again?
Well, even before that, all the
I'm sorry,
immigrants
I think I
were
spoke over you.
marginalized as well.
there was a court case in Australia. I'm just trying to find it here. What is her name? Roxanne Tickle. Tickel. Yeah, I did read that right. Transgender woman won a court case, and it's basically saying that a woman is someone who identifies as a woman, which I think is a little ambiguous there, but it was more of a case of discrimination for that one. I haven't read the full thing, but it's Roxanne.
This was
Tickle.
very recent.
It's 23rd August this year that the court case was done. I haven't read the full one, but it'd be interesting to see, to read it all.
I think Steve was arguing for the other side, and that's why he lost. Because he entered into evidence the Bible and said, hey, the Bible, we entered it as evidence to say this is what truth is. And, womp womp, he lost.
Well, literal truth in the Bible.
I mean, as a... Go ahead.
Steve is very interesting because he asked about what is moral, what is moral, or what is morality, or what is a moral. It was the question that he asked a bunch of times, and I literally cut and pasted the answer twice just out of Google Dictionary, and you can tell he just never read it. He's not interested in an answer.
But you also claim morality is a religious concept.
And he dodged and deflected real fast as soon as I started asking evidence for that.
I never got the chance to ask him why social animals have morals as well, but that's
well, and that was the reason why I wanted him on, because he doesn't respond to those counter arguments, especially when he knows that he's wrong.
Yeah, essentially that's how we know he's not actually interested.
Maybe I'm being super reductionist here. Yeah,
I don't know whether he does know he's wrong.
From my point of view,
he might be just that convinced himself.
I think John just has a big delay.
You there, John?
Yeah,
John,
that might be it.
What is your connection? How are you connecting?
Oh, I try to connect on a personal level, really get to know people one-on-one.
And no wonder there's a delay.
Exactly. No, Steve, I think, comes across as sort of a Dunning-Kruger intellectual. He's clever enough to be able to actually respond and sort of give some sort of pushback sometimes, but there are these base assumptions that he makes that he's clearly never really analyzed. Or if he's just doing it to troll for the sake of trolling, then he thought that these were these gotchas that weren't really the slam dunks that he thought they were. Either way, he's not making the argument that he thinks he is, and unfortunately, that's been kind of thrown in his face several times now.
He's actually not making.
I would be surprised if he comes back again.
Sorry, John. He's not making the argument at all. All he's doing is parroting stuff he got from other people who tell him what to think. That is a bit of a problem. So you can see this when you ask him follow-up questions associated with the statements and claims that he makes. He's unaware of any of the sort of elements that go into his answer. For example, it doesn't appear that he's ever read the Bible. And when we pushed back at him and asked him those questions, he just dodges them and moves on, which is kind of an answer. That he's making claims about what's in the Bible without ever having read it. And this says that he's doing exactly what the church wants him to do, which is to say, don't think for yourself, think what you're told to think.
Yeah.
Well, he's not making an argument, but
was he the one who's...
I think, John, what you're saying is that he does seem, a little bit clever because of his sophistry, the kind of way he, attacks.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
So, Blarg, your points and my point are not mutually exclusive. He can be a parrot, but he can also be a clever parrot. Because
I don't know, maybe
when you do
maybe
get him actually...
Sorry, go on.
No. Really, my point isn't beyond that. It's just that if you, if you look in the comment section the few times that he and I talked back and forth, and he would make claims about abortion, and then I debunked his abortion claims, and then he pivoted to, well, of course, that's because we let women have careers now, and then I debunked that claim. But so he's at least clever enough to be able to go one or two steps beyond, unlike Neppy, unlike Jim Edith, unlike Florida, where they can't go past the first premise. Rattling them on their first premise just causes them to come apart. Steve will at least go a couple of steps further. At least he did a little bit with me this last week. So that tells me that if he is a parrot, and fine, for the sake of conversation, I'll accept that premise, he's at least more clever than most.
Well, I wouldn't say most. He definitely thinks himself clever.
I don't know. But if y'all think I'm off base.
Well, I think it's just that, the average is pretty low for that group. So you can be just a little bit clever.
when the bar is Neppy and Jim Edith.
Yep.
You have nowhere to go but up. So sort of damning with faint praise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a personal perspective, but from where I'm coming from, but I find Steve to be extremely slow and really predictable. I haven't found any sort of original thought in his behaviour. It all appears to be stuff he's just picked up by watching apologists on YouTube and listening to what his pastor has to say. It may well be that he's watched some videos also about how to respond to people's, pushing back against abortion bans. So yeah, I don't know. That's just me.
But the thing is, he has that kind of toolbox, a limited toolbox. But once he's gone through all of those, he doesn't go beyond it. So next time you ask him, he essentially regurgitates the whole thing. He even the stuff that he's admitted to, in some cases to, being wrong, but he will still bring that up next time as if, you've never had that discussion before. So I think that's what kind of makes him seem not so smart. So he just has an appearance of being a little bit clever, but he really doesn't have, I think, a real thought.
Actually, you know what?
That's exactly it. Casey,
what would be really useful for him is if he started reading 50 to 100 pages of philosophy a day. He'd become the much more cleverest very quickly.
That's right. and he would be able to, I think, be an unofficial Aussie if he does that.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah.
Where is he gone? Where is Danny gone?
He does the same thing that Jim does and that Nebby does. He pops up, he splashes the turds around for a little while, and then he goes underground.
He might have gone to Bali. That's a joke in Australia. That Bali is a cheap holiday destination for us. It's a shithole, from what I can hear. I refuse to go there because I think Indonesia needs to be wiped off the map. But I might be slightly biased on that opinion.
Well, so then let's get into a little bit. You know, it looks like Steve still isn't showing up. Of course, it does seem like we have someone who kind of wants to take on Steve's mantle. This guy, Cinnamon 13, but he doesn't seem very coherent at all. But anyway, so the question at hand, right, is what is a woman?
Sure.
And the reason why these guys ask this, and it's just, you know, same thing as when they, you know, complain about the use of preferred pronouns. It really is just, you know, way for them to kind of go into their anti-trans position. And the point is that, you know, a woman is obvious, is a female. And that's what his definition is. But at least, you know, when I think about a woman, it's basically, you know, someone who it's a social construct, as I think a lot of us say. For the most part, you know, it is correlated, you know, kind of, you know, tightly correlated with a biological female. But you can't say a female is same as a woman, because we know that there are cases where it isn't the same. And also, we don't have that piece of information. You know, when someone comes to you and presents themselves as a woman, you absolutely cannot say that that person is definitely a female, a biological female. And the reason, and not that she isn't, but you don't have access to the biological information that would be necessary for you to say, you know, specify that this person is a female. All you can do is say that this person is a woman and presenting as a woman. Does anyone else have like a different idea or like a different definition of a woman?
Pretty much goes with mine.
Don't.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they don't have a beard that a wombat can hide in, I'm sort of, well, yeah, then you might just be dressing up for fun, which is all, you know, it's nice to frock up every now and again. But
well, even in that case, you know, we know that there are medical conditions where a female can have a lot of facial hair.
Yeah, I met one female truckie who actually had a better beard than I did. I was jealous. But it's if someone presents as a woman, I'll take them as they present. If you're a woman, yeah, right, it's not a problem. It doesn't worry me. It has no impact on me. I don't understand the whole toilet argument, because if you go into a woman's toilet, there's no trough or anything. That you go into the stall, and that's it. No one's genitals aren't being waved around in a female's toilet. Or if they are.
Well, I think I worry that in the men's room, these guys, these anti-trans guys, are looking over to make sure you have the right pieces.
Yeah, I think they're looking over, but not for the reason that they're claiming they're looking over.
Yeah, I've also noticed a trend. Not that I use public toilets a lot, but when I go in there, a lot of people, a lot of men are going into the stalls, which I can understand that. Sometimes it's easier to sit down. But yeah, this whole thing of trying to bring pedophilia or child molesting into it is all just... It doesn't even rate. It's been statistically proven wrong. it's just garbage. But of course, they run with it.
Well, if you look back,
well, let me just add one thing to you said, like a woman is whoever calls themselves a woman. I would just add that the condition is that they are, honestly, calling themselves a woman. Because
Yes.
you get these cases of, oh, well, this person can wake up one day and decide they feel like a woman and call themselves a woman. That is obviously not a woman, right? That's person who's just playing, or who's actually trying to make fun of the trans experience.
Well, you've got comedians like Dame Edna, Dick Emery. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But yeah, you've got female impersonators, which aren't trans, most of them. But yeah, you've got people who frock up for fun. Ozzy Izzard was one of them. Used to like to get a few of his mates, and they'd all pop on frocks and go down to the local pub and have a beer and a laugh and a sing. They're not women because they're not they're not living as a woman. They're not in the same mindset, I suppose. I don't think I articulated that very well.
No, I get what you're saying. So there's a difference between somebody who in less enlightened times might have been called a cross-dresser. Somebody of one gender getting dressed up as the quote opposite gender. Then there's drag, which is a more stylized and performance-based switching of social costumes. And then there's trans, which is separate from all of that, because that's a person who is who's a different gender. So that's sort of the breakdown, at least as far as I understand it.
Yeah, and I don't have I don't know whether the Americans had Le Girls. It was a stage show with people who were transitioning. Sometimes they'd all had top surgery, but some of them hadn't had bottom yet. But it was huge in Australia. And country pubs, they'd fill country pubs and everything to see, well, basically, Australian males would go anywhere to see tits. And it doesn't matter what they're on. But it was also a good stage show. It did theatre, that sort of there's a different mentality to being trans, a different mindset than just being a drag queen or dressing up for fun, or if it's a Rocky Horror Show, you put on your corset and up your stockings and your suspenders and away you go. Well, at least that's what I used to do. They try and drag all the other, they try and group it all in together, and it's not. There are definite separations there, and I love a good drag show. They're funny.
Oh, sure.
I've got an argument for people who, usually the religious types, who attempt to make the argument that your sex defines your gender, and saying that okay, well, in that case, does God have a penis? Yeah, because
I've never seen any response to that.
No, that they pretty well immediately bail on that conversation and try and change it to something else. But God is somehow a he. I have seen one response. This is God. God can do anything they want, and then just leave it at that.
Yeah, basically, God can be a trans, right? Right. God can be a he at one point and could be a she at another. When God was creating Eve, he was a she.
Yeah, that's the ridiculousness of that argument, is that they can accept that some deity that has no body of any kind, no DNA, no genitalia, no secondary sexual characteristics, nothing of any kind that would physically make them a particular gender. They can accept that deity or that being has a gender, but then go along and say, well, no, gender is inextricably linked to sex and your genitalia, so let's switch it back to that. So
the thing that my tutor, when I asked him about the gender of God, he said it's down to misogyny, and the reason that God gets called the Father is because Christ was a male. But
oh, really? I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's the reason that, you know, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But
It's almost
God,
revisionist, you know, because
yeah,
Jesus appeared much later than the God Yahweh.
yeah, God. He said there is God is asexual, and it's just basically church misogyny and tradition that he gets called Father, therefore given male attributes.
And it's similar to the, you know, arguments that Flojo makes all the time of only life, you know, brings life. And, you know, whenever we ask them, well, how is God life? How is he defined as being alive? No answers to that either.
Well, no, there's an answer. It's basically because magic.
Right.
Yeah. But they don't even say that, you know, they just like don't even respond.
Yeah, but you can sort of push them into various, you know, God isn't bound by your blah-de-blahs, and but yeah, it all boils down to because magic.
Well, I mean, it's fine that they define God as well and not bound by physical laws and all that. But as soon as you say that, it's no longer life, not life as we define it.
Yes, not a single characteristic of anything we would describe as life is embodied by God. None of the characteristics. A virus is by definition more alive than God.
Yeah.
A prion is more alive than God.
Yes,
Crying
because
out
they
loud.
also, what is a disembodied mind? It's can't be alive. It just doesn't work.
Oh, and going back to the question of whether God is male or female, you know, if God is this disembodied mind, it's actually an argument for trans, you know, where, you know, your sex or gender in this case is not determined by your physical characteristics, but what's in your mind, or it is at least a big component of it. So then, you know, God pretty much supports the idea of, you know, the idea of trans.
And
Yeah, who's
people
to
just,
say that God didn't give you a female soul and male genitalia as a
well,
challenge,
that
or whatever
is
the
what a
various
lot.
argument.
That argument is actually used in a lot of the cultures, traditional cultures that have 2 or 3 or more genders, especially in Samoan culture. The born with a female spirit, and yeah, they're accepted, and it's something that's been around. We forget it's something that's been around since, you know, people group together in social groups. There have always been people who don't fit into one group. They usually are revered and respected. They might be feared occasionally because of their supposed shamanistic power or spiritual power, because they have both male and female spirits, which makes you stronger in the spiritual sense. But that falls into a lot of tribal thinking. I think the American Indians have the two-spirit people. I haven't done a lot of research into the American tribal stuff, but I know around the Solomon Islands, Asia, and all that, it's sort of normal. It's You only have to look at the. Yep. Sorry, I'll shut up.
And just going to Stefan had made a comment some time back, and I just want to address it. So he says, this might be a bit of a controversial take, but I have no problems with trans people. So having no problems with trans people is not a controversial take. I know you didn't mean it that way, Stefan, but I do have a problem with those who might be doing it for inauthentic reasons, such as attention, cloud chasing, etc. So we had kind of touched on this a little bit, where I think you're saying that if anyone or calls themselves or identifies as a woman, they're a woman, and I had added to that, as long as they're doing it authentically. And Stefan, I would say, and it looks like Miranda kind of makes a similar response that I was going to make. And Miranda says, Stefan, there are very few people claiming to be trans for attention. The bigotry that trans people face makes it not worth it if it's not real. So I'll just add to that we even if there are people that do this, very few, could be one, or potentially could be 100 or whatever. Even if that is the case, I don't think that invalidates or affects the trans people in any way. They shouldn't be they shouldn't be the one that have to kind of suffer because there are people who are trying to make fun or make light of the trans experience. So if I'm sure there are people that do that, but that doesn't that doesn't affect, or that shouldn't be counted against the trans people. It's kind of like when people see, like, okay, let's say an Asian person driving badly and say, well, all Asians are like that. Few, or even if there's a lot of Asians who drive badly, I don't think that should kind of redound on all Asians having or should that no Asian should be allowed to drive. So the whole idea of there being people who it's kind of similar to the argument, you wake up one day and feel like a woman kind of thing. If there are people like that, those people are not trans. They're bad people.
Only if I'm lucky.
So
essentially,
if
there is a
I
term
wake up
for
and feel a woman, I'd be lucky.
Yeah.
Sorry, dad joke.
There is a term for it. It's called nut picking fallacy, where essentially you just pick a nut out of the group of people that you're trying to make a point about, and then paint them with the behavior of that one person who doesn't represent the majority of them. It's like going and saying that a Christian person who, Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, and I use this example during the week, a highly religious person who eats people, therefore Christians eat people. It's a pretty terrible argument.
Christians only eat Jesus.
Yeah, only eat imaginary people.
Yeah.
So and the comment or the question that I asked is, how do you determine that somebody is inauthentic? Like if you're worried about people acting inauthentically trans, and again, I have no idea what that would even mean how do you determine that a person is acting inauthentically? It's this slippery slope of it. Just goes right back to who gets to determine what is or isn't a woman, who is or isn't acting authentically. And if the person is acting I mean, because I've met some cis women who act crazy and lean into the crazy woman stereotype. They do it for attention. Okay, does that mean that all women are that way? And other than them telling me that they're trying to behave that way on purpose, who gets to decide who gets to decide the metric for authentic behavior or authentic reasons?
And Stefan's response, I think, is to you. That's the tough part, but my baseline is that they try to act normal as possible and not trying to flaunt it because it's trendy.
Sure, and I had an immediate response to that too. How does a cis male flaunt their maleness?
Well, obviously by winning UFC fights.
That's true. Okay, you know what? Checkmate against me. My bad.
I've almost reached I only got 30 kilos to put on before I reached my my old fighting weight. I'm now 96 kilos. It's taken me 5 years, bloody hard work. When I had my knee done, I was down to 64 kilos because you just can't, when you've got a bad knee and your back's buggered, you can't put on muscle. But yeah, I finally managed to get the weight back on, and I'm still running at 5 or less % body fat. So I think that's, yeah, I would say no one wins a fight, and yeah, how are you judging someone by how masculine because they win fights or they get into fights is pointless.
Well, it's that old toxic masculinity construct from the early half of the 20th century, and even lasting through to the 80s to a lesser extent. This idea that if you're getting into fist fights in bars and that sentence completely derailed as I was thinking it. My bad.
Well, so Miranda, I think, responds to that by asking who gets to decide what's normal behavior. And it basically goes down to, it's a social construct, going back to the idea of social construct. If we go back several decades, what we consider to be a woman is very different than what we would consider a woman now. It's not that long ago. If a woman had a job, they weren't really considered a real woman, right? Or if they were someone who was who looked very masculine, or wore pants, they weren't considered a woman. Or the other way, if a man walked around wearing a dress, they're not a man.
Imagine a stay-at-home dad in the 50s. Yeah, that's not going to go down well.
And whatever happened to the confirmed bachelor?
Oh yes, exactly.
Yeah, they were probably all gay, just like the spinsters. They couldn't say it out loud, so I'm just a bachelor. Explains why you're not going down that path.
I knew quite a few confirmed bachelors that did very well for themselves in the female department, and that was why they were confirmed bachelors, because they like getting a leg over and being married. And back then, swinging, well, it happened, but it was a lot harder to. You couldn't even put it in the paper. We didn't even get sex shops in Queensland till I think the early 1980s, and they were still being raided then. It's crazy.
Yeah, let me just add. So Stefan said, yeah, I've been humbled on this topic. Wasn't trying to stir shit. Just trying to get your opinions on it. So Stefan, we didn't mean to try to humble you or rag on you. I was just using, what you had brought just for discussion purposes. So hope you didn't, think that we were coming down on you for discussing your topic.
No, it's exactly right. That's not the intent. It's a reasonable question to ask and well worth discussing.
Yep. So the other side of this whole kind of what is a woman thing is this the question, the idea that I know a woman when I see one, with the idea being that if you are a biological female, you're going to look, quote unquote, look like a woman. If you're a biological male, you're going to look like a man. So these people act as if they would never make an error, that anytime that they meet someone, that they're going to know 100% that the woman is a female and the man is a male. And we know, and this has come up multiple times in the comments, we know that that's not true. But it seems like they don't care. And Cinnamon13 says, but there is a difference between a female and a trans male. They are chuaing hope, though. I think he's maybe getting a stroke or something. Yes, the talk about toilet is true. It's so tiny. Oh, okay. Can anyone figure out what he's talking about?
Okay,
no,
so
I don't speak gibberish.
okay, so yeah, the talk about toilets, it's true, it's so tiny. So I think the number of people there's, to my knowledge, at least in the United States, there's no evidence of anybody going into a bathroom presenting as the gender of that bathroom for the purpose of malicious intent.
Oh, there was one case where I think a school-age kid was fighting with his girlfriend and put on a dress to go into the women's bathroom to assault her. I did hear a story about that, but that is that's got nothing to do with trans. That's got to do with the just a whole lot of things going on there.
That's a severely brain damaged individual who doesn't know how to let a fight go.
I think there was another case, I don't know, maybe in the UK, that a guy dressed up as a woman, but that was purely predatory. He thought it would be easy to molest people in a female's toilet. I think it was the UK, not sure, but I think there has been 1 or 2 cases of that actually happening across the whole world.
Yeah, which is the nut-picking fallacy. You can't go along and call Jeffrey Dahmer an example of Christianity, just like you can't call that person an example of a true trans person, or however you want to term it.
Well, and because it's fashionable to talk about this, at least here in the States, with the election coming up, the amount of actual proven prosecuted voter fraud, the actual amount of proven bad actors within the trans community is, yes, if you look long enough, you can find 1 or 2 examples here or there, but when you compare it to the statistical whole, it is so microscopically insignificant as to be effectively 0. In other words, it just statistically, yes, it happens, but in practice, no, it just doesn't. It's the fear mongering, the think of the children line that has been thrown around as an attack on the trans community. This is a playbook that people, the anti-civil rights movement, has been using for over a century now. They said, think of the children back in the 80s and 90s when gay rights and gay activists were having their big civil liberties push. It was a big topic of conversation when they were going to integrate schools, and of course when women wanted the right to vote. There were cartoons, there were editorials saying, think of the children. who will take care of them. It's just it's the same thing over and over again. They can't actually argue on facts, so they go off of the emotional knee jerk. And some people will believe it and they'll listen, and they'll be just as wrong now as they were 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's a way of dehumanizing the other people, you know.
Yeah.
So with racism, having the whites only bathroom, whites only water fountain, you know, it's just a way to say that, well, blacks are, you know, not even human, so they can't share the same facilities as us, or they'll spread disease, or all those things, right?
Yeah, it's the same old. It's the same old argument over and over again, and it has no basis in truth. It has no basis in facts. And for the crowd that loves to listen to Ben Shapiro say that facts don't care about your feelings, at the end of the day, they're making a feeling argument every time that you show them the facts. So what really is going on in the conservative movement, is, at least in America, is that their feelings don't care about the facts.
Well, they don't care about facts, period, it seems like, you know, at least in the comments with, you know, all the science denial, anti-evolution, abiogenesis, Big Bang, you know, just like, you know, no, or that one guy who keeps on like mentioning Anne Heche and Matt Perry because they had substance abuse. And it doesn't matter to him, all the citations. Yeah, all the citations I give where, you know, Muslims have substance abuse issues as well. And it's actually worse for the Muslims because they aren't, you know, it's so bad, or I guess it's considered taboo or something, you know, especially like alcohol use, that if you do have those abuses, you aren't going to come forward. You aren't going to get treatment. So it actually makes the whole thing worse.
Yeah, it's Matthew Perry is a tragic example of not seeking help when you need it. Well,
but he did seek help. I mean, I think a lot of it is just, you know, there's kind of a physical aspect to that type of addiction, and he's admitted it. You know, he knows, or he knew he had the problem, and you know, a lot of times he did try to get help for it because when he recognized it, but even then, you know, it was really hard for him to, you know, stay away.
Well, said there's when the God, I'm forgetting my basic brain chemistry now. Dopamine. When the dopamine center in the brain gets triggered by a substance, by an activity, it's really hard to ignore it. It's why addiction is so difficult to shake, because your brain literally doesn't function the same when you come off of when you actually start detaching yourself from your addictive behavior. And because, you know, the dopamine centers, because the excitement center, the reward centers of the brain make us feel good and reward us for making the brain feel good, we lose that sense of, you know, our brain literally craves it, and there is works on a physical deficit. So that's why there are some people that it's really hard to get sober and stay sober. I'm very proud of. I have a lot of admiration for people that are able to kick the habit permanently.
Well, and you get guys like that, the Dawkins guy who talks about how, you know, atheists think that we're random chemicals and all that. So if we are not random chemicals, or, you know, chemicals, then how do you explain these kind of issues? You know, why do we have substance abuse, or people who are prone to substance abuse, if, you know, it's the soul, if there's some kind of soul that is what's really making the person you are? Because if it was just the soul, yeah, that's right, that's true. So it's the random devil.
Random devil. Darth Dawkins is. I'm convinced he's just here to stir the pot. He's just here to troll for the sake of trolling. I've never seen him actually engage in any kind of meaningful exchange, meaningful debate at all. It's just
he doesn't respond to any of the
100%
responses.
He did used to. So he once tried to make an argument that slavery wasn't immoral because it was necessary at the time that it was talked about in the Bible. And the reason it was necessary is because people in that era, they didn't have money and they didn't have access to finances. Therefore, you had to use slavery because reasons.
Wait, what?
And because, yeah.
That's the same argument that Benjamin guy who calls in.
Oh yeah.
It's. I was going to invite him on the stream, and actually went back and listened to his last 7 calls, and went, it's cruel. He's not all there.
Well, he said I think he said that he's not a Christian per se, or he doesn't believe in God.
No, he's Gnostic Christian. He's trying to claim that because he's got a very. I have the original version of Christianity, a very old version of Christianity, and I just think he's a lonely guy with some mental health problems.
Wait, is that Benjamin same as the one that calls in, or you're just talking about the Benjamin in the comments?
I think it's one and the same.
Oh, you think they are the same? Okay.
Yeah. He's been kicked out of banned from every church in his town because he goes on about slavery and his strange beliefs.
Yeah, he has some weird Christianity, like this very early Christianity or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think it's even predates Gnostic.
Yeah.
I don't even know. And yeah, I just feel sorry. I got mad at the guy, and then I had a listen to the history of his calls, and I think he's just, he's not all there, and he's sad and lonely, and that's why he keeps calling in, which is fair enough. But surely they have a help line or something that he could call in his county, or maybe not. I don't know. Just, I think I didn't want him coming on the show because I thought it would be low-hanging fruit. Just, it'd be too nasty.
Yeah, on that front. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, unless he's into that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm convinced Florida has a humiliation fetish.
Well, I was trying to be clever, but the more I thought about it, I think I may have tapped into something. When I called him an Andro audiophile.
Oh, yes,
yeah. So Andro audiophile is being aroused by, or Andro audiophilia is being aroused by the sound of the male voice. And what's fascinating is, I think, first of all, he's yet to denounce even the claim, which by his standards means it's true. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that his whole thing is about trying to get guys to call him. He likes the sound in his ears,
and that's creepy.
I mean, look, if that's your kink, dude, then all right, go be weird. That's fine. I'm not going to get in your way.
But don't involve me into your. It's like Carl and his obsession with all things anal.
Yes, that's another thing that I think is methinks he does protest too much.
Yeah, whatever kink you're into is fine. I've probably tried it, and go be happy. But you don't. The one rule with kink is you don't involve other people without their consent.
Yeah, enthusiastic consent is necessary, and that's sort of the big problem that I have with his whole style. It's the big problem that I have with Jim Edith, who I'm not kidding. I genuinely think he has a shame fetish. I genuinely think that he comes on just to get smacked around so he can get his rocks off.
Because his wife or his girlfriend won't do it. You know, just man up and give her a strap on and have at it. I've tried. Speaking of Carl, I realised taking screenshots of his more disgusting posts is good, but trying to get them in a format that I can get to queue to actually display on here is a right pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm going through 300 odd pages of screenshots. So I am going through, but slowly. So it might be a month or more before I get the really juicy ones up. I'm trying to search through the ones where basically a whole thread of say 60 replies is just basically him accusing everyone who answers of being a pedophile groomer. If the perfect example was what last week's comments, he said, "Oh, to yourself, Q, if we were in the Old West, I would be making you dance a jig."
Oh, God, yeah, that.
Which basically means shooting at your feet.
Yep.
Of course, he took it down, but I was able to get a shot of it, and that's what he's accused me of raping Aboriginals, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff.
And he seems to be quick to delete his stuff.
Oh, that's because he's been put on that many timeouts by YouTube. And that's why when he says, when he mentioned you've got YouTube on your side, basically it's him whinging that because he breaches the TOS of YouTube and they remove him for a fortnight, that's the atheist being mean to him because we report him. But if you hate speech is reportable, so yeah, or violence, threatening violence.
Yes.
I even get occasional warnings if I say, in real life, your head would be bouncing off the bar. Or I ask quietly, how many teeth have you got left? Because you can't speak to people like that in real life and expect to have a full set of teeth. I get warnings on that. So you've got to be a bit careful. But he thinks if he deletes his post quick enough, it can't be reported. But if you've got a copy of it or a screenshot or text file, you can actually still do the report. It's just you've got to be really quick with him.
Well, so he made this argument that he deleted this comment because of YouTube, and the comment he deleted was where, he basically said, "Hey, if you want to, or I'll take you on, come at me," kind of thing. And I took that to mean that he was willing to have a debate with him, but fairly quickly as I kind of pushed him on it, he went and deleted that comment. So there's no record of him making that challenge. Although I did, put a post where I copied his comment. But he wants to try to cash or try to write checks that he can't cash.
Yeah. Well, but also, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'll go back through my exchange with him as well, where he basically admitted that the reason why he insults people is because it makes him feel better. Now, could that just be some more meta trolling where he's just saying that to?
I actually saw that in one of my screenshots.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's when I also was taking some break time at work to play with him. But at that point, I was like, okay, dude, you know what? I got to go be an adult in the real world for a while. You play in this sandbox by yourself. Have fun. I suppose I should give him some credit for the fact that at least he admits that he's a troll rather than the whole song and dance crap that all of the other ones do. But if the only way you can feel better is by putting other people's down, then I have no time for you.
Yeah, you got to be a little person for that to be your modus operandi.
It's like, okay, this is like you're too much of a chicken to actually come on and debate, and you insult people to make yourself feel better. All right, I'm done with you.
And the thing that infuriates him, if he gets on a thread, talk about him to other people, and he just absolutely blows his stack, which is wonderful. He comes out with some really nasty stuff then, but yeah, everyone ignores him and just talks about him.
Yeah,
but won't direct anything to him, and he's like a little kid stamping his feet. Pay attention! I'm going to say the worst thing possible. Pay attention to me. Pay attention. And yeah, he loses it then.
just goes bonkers.
Someone mentioned that Chris Maisie is actually Neppy.
Huh.
I don't know.
I can't see that.
That's
No, I can't see it either.
Yeah, I can't see it either. I forget who mentioned it, but yeah, I did no. He's a one of a kind. It's like Carl. I think Carl is one of a kind. Or if he's someone else, he's doing a bloody
Well,
good
he
job.
was upset at you because in the past you said he had multiple counts.
Yeah, but I've never said that. I've always he could be someone, but I don't know. Can't be sure. And I think Blarg has done the same thing. It's sort of like he could be this person or he could be that person, but there's no definitive proof. So we'll just treat him as his own special idiot. Yeah, trying to just work out who they are. You do speculate, but I've never accused him of being another person. But he just likes to have a whinge.
Well, it's that whole victim mindhood.
Yeah.
Speaking of other people, the new guy Bomdia seems like he might be a new troll as well. Came in, pretty well a similar path, but doesn't appear to be one of the usuals.
Bomb.
Bomdia, what's his handle? It's ELUCIDATIVO7. They posted a thing 2 days ago on Atheists Think Hell is Unfair because they're going there, saying, please, atheists, explain to me exactly what would be sufficient evidence for you to believe in God. I mean, exactly, not just some vague answer like scientific evidence, quote unquote. And then later on, go on.
No, I was going to say
his full name, because I think I got him. But what is his name again?
Elucitavo7, Elucid Atavo7 or something is the account handle, the at, and it's bomb, BOM, capital BOM, space DI, little DIA, Bomdia.
Hang on. Yep, got it. Okay, that sounds very much like that guy who came in before a few months ago and kept going, kept demanding people what evidence? Remember that guy?
Yeah, I think I vaguely recall who you're talking about. My response to that question is typically, well, what's the best, strongest evidence that convinced you?
Well, he hasn't actually defined. I'm going through. Oh, no, he has defined his God, but basically it's just I am and Jesus Christ, but he's using the Jewish spelling.
Yes, that's the thing. Use the and that's a punsy sort of a move too, to try and add some intellectual superiority over the top of everyone else. But I did have a little chuckle. I posted it up on the video where he did it as a separate thread, and on a video yesterday as well, where so he had that OP saying, you know, what's explain exactly what the evidence would be sufficient for you to believe in God. And then later on, when so I gave a huge like multiple responses that give examples, also give the standard thing like God knows what the answer would be. I shouldn't have to tell him what it is, but
of course, the other answer that I usually give is I actually have a number. There's a number that I picked when I was in high school, and said, I kept on telling theists, okay, have your God tell me through you exactly what number I have written down, and I will convert to your specific deity today on the spot. I've had that same number written down since high school, so that's, oh good grief, almost 30 years now. That's hard.
I mean, I think there are ways to. Yeah, I mean, I think there are kind of ways. If there was a God who could demonstrate that they at least have knowledge that humans don't have, and can do things that humans right now technologically can't. So, you know, it could be done. A God, an omnipotent God, can convince themselves that they exist, but they don't, because he doesn't exist.
No, actually, so speaking about Jim Edith, he actually had a response to that, which is that the omni attributes of God are conditional. So
conditional to what?
Oh, so he's using the maximum.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So in other words, omni. So it's omni, but only some of the time.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm slightly misquoting him, and I don't want to get accused of lying. So hold on. Let me.
Too late. He's going to accuse you regardless.
Yes, even if you quote him directly.
If you just, I think 6 months ago, I just typed A, capital A, small a, to one of these things, and he immediately came back with liar.
No, he may have been responding to something you posted before that.
No,
maybe.
it's the first thing. It just his automatic response is liar. You're lying.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anyone he hasn't accused of lying.
No.
There is a reason why I call him Clyde.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. The omni attributes are qualitative.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Qualitative.
He thinks he doesn't understand what that word means.
Oh, yeah, no.
He doesn't understand what omni means.
Yeah.
Well, qualitative. You know,
or qualitative, yeah.
Yeah, those two don't fit together particularly well.
Yeah, that sentence is a married bachelor. It's like, my dear little sweet sock puppet, you keep on using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yes, that's the one. Exactly that.
Yeah.
But the point I was making about the other guy is that he came in, he did his thing, and then immediately shifted over to, I wasn't asking about whether you believe or not believe in God. I was asking about what it would take for you to commit your life completely to God. You go, what? It's right there in the same thread where you just said it.
Yeah.
You asked for a thing, we gave you the thing, you claimed it was terrible and I'm not going to bother, so I kept hammering him at it. And then when he eventually responded, he's just going, oh, well, no, it wasn't about what it would take for you to believe in God. The devil believes in God. What would it take for you to commit yourself? And you go, that's a completely different question.
Yeah, that's shifting the goalpost.
It's so blatant because it's in the same damn thread.
Yeah.
I'd like to get Jesse back if he can, because I think he's, as long as we can get him off the God thing, I think he might be open to real facts like the world is older than 6,000 years. And I think that
he can join us any time, but it seems like he's not interested. He's avoiding us. Because like before, I think last week he kind of said he might come on, but he didn't. Because I think he wanted to try to defend slavery again, but he didn't. So yeah, if these guys come on, that's fine. But if when they don't like like this week, since Steve didn't show up, we just talked about the topic at hand rather than, even though they weren't here to try to defend it. I'm going to wrap up right now, but I just wanted to kind of say that at least with Steve, this whole question of what is a woman, I don't think it's worthwhile trying to engage him on that front. We can always refer him to this live stream to tell him that
you on that one.
Yeah.
Refuse to engage.
It's not worth engaging him on it anyways. Just stick to the point.
It's just
because that is a blatant emergency change of topic.
Yeah.
So just ignore it and just keep hammering the same point.
Yep.
I'll pop in in the comments later. There's a new song by Kevin Bloody Wilson regarding the Australian cryptid, the drop bear, which is it's bloody funny. So I'll put that in the comments so you can all have a look at that and listen to it.
Yep, please and thank you.
Easy done. And
all right. See
you all next week.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone in the live comments. And we will all see you in the comments.
Yep. Be well.